I still remember the way she looked that night, the one where it all started to fall apart. Not that I knew it then. Hell, if you'd told me 5 minutes before midnight that my life was about to get ripped in half, I would have laughed, clinked your beer bottle with mine, and said, "Man, you've been drinking too much." But here's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't knock. It doesn't announce itself. It slips in through the back door wearing someone else's smile, pretending it belongs. Her name was Emily. We'd been together 7 years, 7 years of shared apartments, bad takeout, road trips with the windows down, her head on my shoulder while Sweet Home Alabama played too loud. 7 years of inside jokes, Christmas mornings, fighting over thermostat settings, and making up in bed with whispered apologies. She used to say we were boring on purpose, that we were building something real, something that didn't need fireworks to stay lit. And maybe we were. Until the party. It wasn't even supposed to be a big deal. Just a gathering at Mark and Jess's place, our friends from college, a few coworkers, some people we only saw once a year when the holidays rolled around and everyone pretended they gave a damn. Their house sat on a quiet cul-de-sac in Silver Spring, 2 stories with a wraparound deck and a backyard that screamed suburban dream, string lights, fire pit, a keg someone had looked over like it was a peace offering. I wore my usual, dark jeans, grey Henley boots I'd had since grad school. Nothing fancy. Emily, though. Emily went full Emily. Black dress, tight but not slutty, hugging her curves just right. Hair down, wavy like she'd spent an hour on it, she probably had. Red lipstick, the kind that says I'm not trying too hard, but I want you to notice me. And goddamn, did people notice. I saw it the second we walked in. Heads turned. Conversations paused. A few guys did that subtle double take, the kind you learn to ignore when you've been with someone beautiful for years. You tell yourself it's a compliment. You wear her beauty like a medal. But deep down, there's always that whisper, what happens when she realizes she could do so much better? I pushed it aside. Always did. Because Emily never gave me a reason not to. Not until that night. We brought wine, Cabernet, her favorite. I hugged Jez at the door, slapped Mark on the back. "You bastard, you actually cleaned," I said, stepping into their living room. It was clean. Weirdly clean. Like they'd hired someone or panicked 3 hours before guests arrived. "Wife's orders," Mark grinned, cracking open a beer. You know how she gets when people see the couch. Emily was already moving toward the kitchen, chatting with Sarah from accounting, laughing at something I couldn't hear. I watched her for a second, the way her hand moved when she talked, the little dip of her head when she found something funny. I loved that. Still do, sometimes, when the anger lets me. I grabbed a beer from the cooler and wandered outside. The air was cool for October, crisp with the smell of burning wood and distant grill smoke. A few people were gathered around the fire pit, roasting marshmallows like we were 15 again. Someone put on old school Kings of Leon. I took a seat on a folding chair near the edge, sipping my drink, feeling good. Normal. Happy, even. Then he showed up. I didn't know his name at first. Nobody introduced us properly. He just appeared late, casual, like he owned the night. Tall, lean, dressed in black slacks and a navy blazer, no tie. Designer watch. Hair perfectly messy, like he'd just rolled out of bed looking expensive. He had that Hollywood jawline, the kind you see in cologne ads. Smiled like he knew secrets. He walked straight to Emily. That's what stuck with me. Not that he was there. Not that he was handsome. But that he went straight to her, like they'd planned it. She turned, saw him, and this is the part that cuts me every time, her face lit up. Not polite surprise. Not "oh hey, didn't expect to see you." No. It was the kind of smile she used to save for me. The one that crinkled the corners of her eyes, The one that made her whole body lean forward, like gravity bent toward him. They hugged. Longer than friends should. One arm around her waist. Her hand on his chest. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on the stairs. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe he was a friend from work. Maybe she'd mentioned him before and I'd forgotten. But I would have remembered that look. I would have remembered the way her voice changed when she spoke to him, softer, playful, like they shared a joke the rest of the world wasn't allowed to hear. I stayed where I was. Watched. Tried to relax. Took another sip of beer. Then another. An hour passed. The music shifted to something slower. People danced in pairs or small groups, drunk and loose. Emily and Mystery Man stayed close, talking, laughing, drinks in hand. Once, he touched her arm when he said something. Another time, she brushed hair from his forehead like it was the most natural thing in the world. Jealousy isn't foreign to me. I felt it before, small pangs, fleeting. But this was different. This wasn't just envy. It was dread. A cold knot forming in my gut, tightening with every passing minute. Finally, I stood up and walked over. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile. "I don't think we've met." She turned to me, eyes bright. "Babe. This is Daniel. He's new at the firm, just transferred from the law office last month." Daniel? So he had a name. "Nice to meet you," I said, extending my hand. He shook it firm, confident, but with that slight overgrip men use when they're trying to assert dominance. "You too, man. Emily's told me a lot about you." "Has she?" I thought. "Like what?" "She hasn't mentioned you," I said, keeping my voice light. He smirked like I'd made a joke. "Guess I'm not that memorable." "No," Emily said, touching his arm. "Not at all." There it was again. That intimacy. That ease. Like they weren't just colleagues. Like they weren't just meeting at a party. I stayed. Made small talk. Asked about La, the transfer, the weather. Daniel answered smoothly, effortlessly charming. Every word felt rehearsed. Every laugh timed. And Emily? She hung on every syllable. After 10 minutes, she said, "Let's get another round." My turn. She started toward the house, and Daniel fell into step beside her. Not behind. Not letting her go alone. Beside her. Like they were a unit. I didn't follow. I stayed by the fire, staring into the flames, feeling the heat on my face but cold everywhere else. 10 minutes later, Emily came back with 2 glasses of red wine. "No drink for Daniel." "Where's Daniel?" I asked. "Oh, he had to take a call. Some client emergency." She handed me a glass. "Here. You looked like you needed a refill." I nodded, sipped. The wine tasted bitter. We made small talk. She commented on how nice Jess's house looked, how cute the dog was, how someone had spilled beer on the rug. Normal stuff. Safe stuff. But I couldn't shake it. Later, when we were getting ready to leave, I saw them again. Near the side gate. Away from the lights. Close. Too close. Emily leaned against the fence, laughing at something Daniel said. He stood in front of her, one hand on the wood beside her head, caging her in. Not aggressively. Seductively. They weren't kissing. Not then. But the space between them, it wasn't empty. It was charged. Thick with something I couldn't name, but felt like a punch to the chest. I stepped forward. They broke apart instantly. Daniel straightened up. Emily turned, startled. "There you are," I said, my voice calm. Too calm. "Ready to go." Emily smiled. "Yeah. Just saying goodbye to Daniel." He gave me a nod. "Good seeing you, man." "You too," I said. We drove home in silence. Not comfortable silence. Not the kind where you are both tired and content. This was heavy. Full of things unsaid. I kept glancing at her. Her hands in her lap. The way she stared out the window. The faint glow of her phone screen lighting her face in flashes. When we got home, she went straight to the bathroom. I stayed in the living room, kicked off my shoes, sat on the couch. She came out 10 minutes later, in pajamas, brushing her hair. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "You?" "I'm tired." It was fun, though. Everyone was so nice. "Yeah," I said again. I wanted to ask. I wanted to say, "Who the hell is Daniel? Why were you two standing in the dark like lovers? Why does he make you light up like that?" But I didn't. Because a part of me was still hoping I was wrong. Hoping it was just a bad vibe, a trick of the light, my imagination running wild. But late that night, after she fell asleep, I reached for her phone on the nightstand. It was unlocked. I shouldn't have looked. I know that now. Privacy matters. Trust matters. But I opened her messages anyway. And there it was. A thread with Daniel. Messages from before the party. "Miss you," he wrote 2 days prior. "Can't stop thinking about last weekend." And her reply, "Me neither." It was perfect. But we can't keep doing this. It's not fair to him. Then Daniel, then tell him. Or I will. And her, not yet. Please. Just give me time. I sat there, staring at the screen, my heart hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. The room spun. Last weekend. That was Saturday. We'd gone hiking that day. Just the two of us. She said she loved being outdoors with me. Said it reminded her why she chose me. And all along, she'd already chosen someone else. I put the phone back gently. Lying next to her, breathing in the same air, I felt like a stranger in my own life. The woman I loved, the woman I'd planned a future with, had been lying to me for weeks. Maybe months. And the worst part, she was still asleep. Peaceful. Guiltless. While I lay there, wide awake, feeling the foundation of everything I believed in crack beneath me. That was the night it ended. Even if nobody knew it yet. Including her. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single second. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my body rigid beside hers, listening to her breathe, slow, even, innocent. Emily had always been a deep sleeper. Even during thunderstorms or when I'd come home late, slamming doors and cursing under my breath after a bad shift at work, she never stirred. But now her peace felt like an insult. Every inhale she took was another lie in the dark. I kept replaying those messages in my head like a broken record. "Miss you." "Me neither." It was perfect. What the hell did perfect mean? Was it just sex? Or had they built something, some little world where I didn't exist? Did he make her laugh louder? Hold her longer? Say the things I thought I was saying every day? And then there was the worst question of all. How long had this been going on? I wanted to wake her up. Shake her. Demand answers. Scream until the walls cracked. But I didn't. Because for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't sure who she was. I got up around 3:17 a.m., I remember, because I checked the clock like I was timing a bomb. The digital numbers glowed red in the dim room, 3:17. I moved quietly, barefoot across the cold hardwood, into the living room. I sat on the couch where we used to watch movies together, where she'd rest her head in my lap during sad films and say, "You don't have to be strong for me." Where we'd made love after our first big fight, desperate and raw, like we were trying to prove something. Now it was just furniture. Empty space. I turned on my laptop. Scrolled through photos, hours, from vacations, birthdays, lazy Sundays. There she was, smiling at me from a cabin in the Smokies, wrapped in my flannel, holding a mug of coffee like it was the best thing in the world. And here, laughing on a beach in Carolina, sand in her hair, squinting into the sun. And again, arms around me at New Year's Eve, lips parted as she kissed me at midnight, fireworks bursting behind us. All of it real. All of it true. But how much of it was also a lie? I opened her social media. Nothing obvious. No tagged photos with Daniel. No suggestive comments. She wasn't careless that way. Emily was smart to leave fingerprints unless she wanted to. So I started digging deeper. Her Instagram story from the party, the one she posted at 9:48 p.m., showed a group shot near the fire pit. Me in the corner, half out of frame, looking away. Her front and center, radiant, Daniel just behind her shoulder, one hand resting lightly on her hip. I zoomed in. His thumb was curved around her waist. Not sexual. Not overt. But intimate. Familiar. Like his hand belonged there. And she wasn't pulling away. She was leaning into it. I stared at that photo until my eyes burned. Then I checked her location history. I know what you are thinking, that's invasive. That's crossing a line. And yeah, maybe it is. But when someone steals your truth, you stop caring about lines. We shared an Apple ID for the house, the TV, iCloud backups. I hadn't set up separate accounts because, honestly, why would I? We were building a life. Merging. Becoming one unit. Now that same system was showing me exactly where she'd been. Last weekend. Saturday. The hiking trip. Except her phone hadn't pinged a single trailhead in Shenandoah. Instead, it spent 8 hours bouncing between two locations, a motel off Route 29, the Pine Hollow Inn, and a diner 10 minutes down the road. A motel. Not a campsite. Not a ranger station. A motel. And the check-in time. 10:14 a.m. Our hike didn't start until noon. I felt sick. Physically ill. I ran to the bathroom and dry-heaved over the toilet, hands gripping the rim, tears stinging my eyes. Not just from anger, from grief. From loss. From the horrifying realization that the woman I loved had been rehearsing affection for me while still smelling like someone else. I thought about leaving right then. Packing a bag. Walking out. Letting the door slam behind me so loud the neighbors would call the cops. But something stopped me. Not love. Not hope. It was rage. Cold, quiet, coiled deep in my chest. Because if she thought she could do this, smile in my face, kiss me goodnight, plan our future like nothing was broken, then she didn't get to walk away clean. She didn't get to erase me. No, if she wanted to play games, I'd play too. But I wouldn't lose. The next morning, I acted normal. I made coffee. Toast. Eggs, her favorite, scrambled with cheddar and green onions. I set the table like every other Sunday. Put on the sports recap show she pretended to care about. Wore the same calm smile I'd worn for years. She came out in that oversized t-shirt I love, yawning, stretching like nothing was wrong. Morning, she said, kissing my cheek. Hey, I replied, handing her a mug. Sleep okay. Like a rock. That wine must have been stronger than I thought. I nodded. Yeah. Parties do that. She sat, picked up her phone, scrolled. I watched her fingers move, her expression neutral. No guilt. No hesitation. Just routine. I wanted to snatch it from her and throw it against the wall. Instead, I asked, so what's the plan today? Laundry? Grocery run. She looked up, surprised. You're offering to do chores. What's the catch? No catch, I said, smiling. Just thought we could spend the day together. Haven't done that in a while. Her face softened. That would be nice. nice. Like we were just two people in a healthy relationship, sorting out a lazy Sunday. But I saw it just for a second, when she glanced at her phone again. A flicker. A micro-expression. Her thumb hovered over a message notification before she locked the screen. Daniel. I knew it. And now, so did I. Over the next week, I became a ghost in my own life. I went to work. Sat at my desk at the insurance firm, processed claims, smiled at coworkers, joked about football, acted like my world hadn't been set on fire. At home, I played the role of the loving boyfriend. Took her out to dinner. Held her hand walking the dog. Laughed at her jokes. Listened when she talked about her job, her friends, her dreams. Dreams that no longer included me, I realized. Because one night, while she was in the shower, I found a folder on her laptop labeled Designs. Curiosity killed the cat, but betrayal kills trust faster. Inside were documents. Floor plans. Color swatches. Furniture layouts. For an apartment. Not ours. A one-bedroom in Georgetown. Modern. Minimalist. With a balcony. And a note at the bottom of one file, can't wait to live with you. This will be ours. No name. No signature. But I knew. Daniel lived in Georgetown. I closed the laptop slowly, placed it back exactly where I found it, and walked to the bedroom. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. 32 years old. Average build. Calloused hands from weekend projects. A scar above my eyebrow from falling off a bike when I was 12. Dark circles under my eyes now. Nothing special. But I'd loved her. Fully. Completely. I'd planned to marry her. Buy a house. Have kids. Grow old arguing about the thermostat. And she was already decorating their future without me. That night, I didn't touch her. When she rolled over and put her hand on my chest, I froze. Everything okay, she whispered. Just tired, I said. Long day. She kissed my shoulder and fell asleep. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of her hand like a brand. I started following her. Not in a creepy, stalker way, at least not at first. I just noticed things. The way she'd lock her phone now when I entered the room. The sudden work dinners on Thursdays. The new perfume, something expensive, musky, unfamiliar. And her phone calls. Always stepping outside. Always hushed. One Thursday, she said she was having drinks with Sarah from accounting. I called Sarah that night. Oh, I didn't see Emily this week, she said. Did she cancel? No, I said. She said you guys met. There was a pause. Huh? Must have mixed up the date. I hung up and sat in the dark. She was lying. Straight to my face. That Friday, I followed her. I waited until she left in her little silver Honda, then pulled out 5 minutes later. She drove north, toward D.C., toward Georgetown. My stomach twisted the whole way. She parked near M Street, walked into a coffee shop, Brew and Bloom. I stayed across the street, hood up, hands in pockets, pretending to text. 20 minutes later, he walked in. Daniel. Same effortless swagger. Same smirk. He spotted her immediately, leaned down, kissed her cheek. They sat close. Shared a pastry. Laughed. Talked with their hands. Looked at each other like they were the only two people in the world. I watched them through the glass, rain starting to fall, soaking my jacket. And then it happened. He reached across the table, took her hand. She didn't pull away. She turned her palm up, laced her fingers with his. And smiled. That smile, the one I thought was mine. I snapped a photo with my phone. Then another. Then 3 more. Proof. Not for the police. Not for court. For me. So I'd never forget. So I'd never doubt. So I'd never go soft. That night, I confronted her. Not with yelling. Not with tears. With silence. I waited until she came back, humming, kicking off her shoes. Good evening. I asked. Yeah. Long week. Needed that. She walked past me toward the kitchen. I held up my phone. Showed her the photo. Her face changed instantly. Color drained. Eyes widened. Lips parted. For the first time since the party, she looked afraid. I followed you, I said, voice flat. I saw you. At Brew and Bloom. With Daniel. She didn't deny it. She didn't say, it's not what it looks like. She just stood there, frozen. So it's true, I said. You've been sleeping with him. For weeks. While telling me you loved me. While planning our life. She swallowed. I was going to tell you. When? I asked. After you moved in with him. After you found the perfect shade of grey for the living room walls. Tears welled in her eyes. It just happened. I didn't plan it. Of course you didn't, I said, laughing, a hollow, broken sound. Nobody ever plans to destroy someone's life. They just do it while saying they're sorry afterward. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. But you did, I said. You ripped out my heart and handed it to him on a silver platter. She reached for me. Please. Let's talk about this. I stepped back. No, I said. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. I walked to the bedroom, started pulling clothes from the closet. What are you doing? She asked, following. Moving out. You don't have to. Yes, I do, I said, folding a shirt too hard. Because if I stay one more night in this apartment, breathing the same air as you, knowing what you've done, I'm going to say something I can't take back. Or do something worse. She started crying. Real tears. Sobs shaking her shoulders. I love you, she said. I do. This doesn't mean I don't. That's the problem, I said, zipping my suitcase. You don't get to love me and betray me at the same time. Love isn't a backup plan. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, the box of old photos I kept under the bed. At the door, I paused. I looked at her, really looked. The woman I'd loved since college. The one I'd carried through her father's funeral. The one I'd proposed to, not with a ring, but with a promise, I'll never leave you. And now? Now she was just a stranger wearing her face. I hope he's worth it, I said. Then I walked out. I stayed with Mark and Jess for a few nights. Didn't tell them why. Just said Emily and I needed space. Jess gave me sympathetic looks. Mark clapped me on the back and said, women, man. They'll break your heart every time. I didn't correct him. But alone in the guest room, I stared at the ceiling and replayed every moment. The hike. The motel. The messages. The handhold. And then one night, scrolling through photos on my phone, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. A picture from the party. Emily, laughing, head thrown back. Behind her, near the gate, Daniel, watching her. But not just watching. Filming her. On his phone. Zoomed in. Cropped tight. Like a trophy. I downloaded the original image, enhanced it. And there, in the reflection of his phone screen, was another photo. Of her. In our bed. Lying on her side, sunlight on her skin. Wearing my t-shirt. My blood turned to ice. He'd been inside our home. While I was at work. While I trusted her. They'd done it in our bed. The bed we bought together. The one we'd christened after our first fight. The one where she told me she wanted to have my children. And they'd used it like a cheap hotel room. I sat up all night. Not crying. Not screaming. Planning. Because now it wasn't just about pain. It was about justice. She'd taken everything from me, my trust, my future, my belief in love. So fine. If she wanted to play house with Daniel, I'd make damn sure she remembered me. Not as the guy who walked away, but as the one who made her pay. I didn't want to be the guy who did something crazy. Not really. I never saw myself as someone capable of revenge. I was the kind of man who held doors, paid his taxes on time, and returned extra change when the cashier miscounted. I believed in fairness, in second chances, in love being stronger than mistakes. But that was before I saw her reflection in Daniel's phone screen, before I realized they turned our bed into a secret hideout, our home into a stage for their lies. That was before I understood that betrayal isn't just an act. It's a slow poison. And once it's in your blood, you either die from it or learn how to weaponize it. So yeah, maybe I did become the crazy guy. But let me tell you something, they made me that way. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment off Georgia Avenue, small, dimly lit, above a laundromat that ran all night. The hum of dryers vibrated through the floorboards like a constant heartbeat. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No shared memories. No ghost of Emily in the shower singing off-key. No framed photos of us grinning on a beach like we hadn't already started falling apart. For 3 days, I barely left the place. Slept in fits. Ate peanut butter straight from the jar. Drank black coffee until my hands shook. I kept going over the evidence, the messages, the location history, the photo from Brew and Bloom, the image of her in our bed on Daniel's phone. And then it hit me. Daniel had saved that photo. He kept it. Not deleted. Not hidden in some encrypted folder. Just sitting there, exposed, like he was proud of it. Which meant he wasn't afraid. And if he wasn't afraid, it was because he thought he'd won. Well, I was going to teach him what winning really cost. First, I dug into Daniel. Emily had told me he transferred from the law office last month. Corporate finance, mid-level management at Hartwell and Price, a firm that specialized in mergers and acquisitions for tech startups. Fancy title. Big salary. But not untouchable. I spent 2 nights combing through LinkedIn, company press releases, industry forums. Found out he'd been promoted fast. Rumors swirled about him sleeping his way up the ladder. Nothing proven. Just whispers. But whispers are seeds. Then I found his Instagram. Private account, but Emily had tagged him once, in a photo from a work happy hour, months ago, before they were a thing. She'd untagged it later, but the metadata lingered. Through a reverse image search, and a few clever Google tricks, I accessed old cached versions of the post. And there he was. Smiling. Arm around a woman with long dark hair. Her name was Nina Cho. Senior VP of Operations. Married. To a partner at the same firm. I downloaded everything, screenshots, timestamps, location tags. Then I went deeper. Found a series of tweets from an anonymous industry gossip account at Wall Street Whispers. One post from 6 weeks ago read. New guy at H&P. Real smooth operator. Already got Nina Cho cancelling meetings to work from home. Wonder how long before HR gets involved. Another user replied, dude's a predator. Watch your wife. I wasn't interested in saving anyone else's marriage. But I was interested in leverage. So I reached out. Not directly. Anonymously. I created a burner email, truthwatcher1984@protonmail.com, and sent a single message to Nina Cho's personal address, found through a public records search tied to a property listing. You might want to review your iCloud backups. There's a photo of you and Daniel in room 412 at the Belmont Hotel dated 17th August. Timestamp shows 10:47 p.m. Your husband's firm handles internal audits for Hartwell and Price. Think he'd like to see it. No signature. No threats. Just facts. Then I waited. 48 hours later, Daniel was reassigned. Not fired, but moved to a special project team working remotely out of Buffalo, 3,000 miles away. Coincidence? Maybe. But I knew better. Meanwhile, Emily tried to contact me. Texts at first. We need to talk. Please don't shut me out. I miss you. I didn't reply. Then came the calls. Voicemails. 1. She cried. 2. She got angry. 3. She begged. Finally, she showed up at my new place. I saw her through the peephole, dressed nicely, hair done, holding a container of my favorite Thai food. My stomach twisted. Not with longing. With disgust. Because I remembered that same look, the careful makeup, the rehearsed vulnerability on the night of the party. This was performance. Grief as strategy. I didn't open the door. She left the food by the mat. I threw it in the dumpster. But I wasn't done. No, the real plan was just beginning. Because revenge isn't satisfying unless the person who hurt you knows why they're suffering. So I decided to return the favor. I was going to show Emily what it felt like to have her secrets spilled. Not publicly, not yet. First, privately. I logged into the shared iCloud account we still hadn't separated. Pulled every photo she'd ever taken. Every note. Every voice memo. And then I found it. A folder labeled drafts. Inside, unsent texts. To Daniel. I can't keep lying to him. It's killing me. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about your hands on me. I'll tell him this weekend. I promise. He suspects something. I can feel it. I hate myself for doing this. But I can't stop. There were dozens. Raw. Confessional. Full of guilt but never action. She never sent them. Because she wasn't sorry enough to stop. I copied them all. Then I created a document, clean, professional, like a case file. Added screenshots. The Brew and Bloom photo. The motel check-in record. The Georgetown apartment plans. The image of her in our bed from Daniel's phone. The text thread between them. At the top, I typed a single line. This is what you did. This is what you chose. I printed 2 copies. One, I mailed to her parents. Registered mail. Signature required. The other, I slipped under her door at the apartment. With a post-it note. You said you were going to tell me. You lied about that too. 2 days later, her mom called me. Crying. Shaking. Begging me to tell her it wasn't true. I raised her better, she sobbed. She swore it wasn't serious. She said it was just confusion. I didn't yell. Didn't gloat. I just said, she had 7 years with me. 7 years to be honest. She chose a lie instead. I could hear her breaking down on the other end. Good. Let her carry this. Let them all carry it. Because families don't get to pretend ignorance when one of their own destroys someone's life. Emily showed up again. This time, no food. No tears. Just fury. She stood in the hallway outside my door, voice low and sharp. You had no right, she hissed. You invaded my privacy. You humiliated me. To my mother. I opened the door just enough to see her. You slept with another man, I said. In our bed. While telling me you loved me. You planned a life with him while keeping me as a backup. And now you're the victim? I never wanted to hurt you, she snapped. But you did, I said. Over and over. Every time you kissed him. Every time you lied to my face. Every time you looked at me and pretended. She stepped forward. I was lost. I made a mistake. Mistakes are one-time things, I said. This was a choice. Every day. Every text. Every hotel room. You chose him. Again and again. And now you're mad because I finally saw you clearly? She slapped me. Hard. Stung more than I expected. I didn't flinch. I'm not the monster here, she whispered, trembling. No, I said. You're worse. Monsters scare people. You lied to the person who trusted you most. That's not evil. That's cowardice. I closed the door. Locked it. Left her standing there. Weeks passed. I started therapy. Not because I wanted to forgive her, but because I needed to survive. The anger was eating me alive. My therapist, Dr. Lang, was calm, grey-haired, spoke like he'd seen every kind of heartbreak. You're not wrong for feeling this way, he said. Betrayal cuts deep. But revenge doesn't heal. It just shifts the pain. I don't want to heal, I said. I want her to feel it. And then what, he asked. When she's broken too. Will you be free? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. Then, one evening, I got a call from Mark. Dude, he said. You need to see this. What? Emily and Daniel. They broke up. Like that. What happened? Apparently, Daniel's wife found out. Or someone leaked stuff to HR. He's under investigation for misconduct. Got suspended. Nina Cho filed a formal complaint. Said he pressured her for months. I sat down. So he's finished. Basically. And get this, Emily went to his place to support him. Found another woman there. Same story. Different city. I laughed. Not joyfully. Bitterly. Of course. The man who stole my life was just another cheat. A fraud. A mirror of the woman I loved. I heard she's a mess, Mark said. Crying at work. Quit her job. Moved back in with her parents. I stayed quiet. Part of me wanted to feel bad. But I couldn't. Because while she was crying to her mom, I was the one who would spend nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if love had ever been real. While she was apologizing to Daniel, I was deleting her number for the 10th time, only to redial out of habit. While she was choosing him, I was choosing her every damn day. And now? Now she was learning what it felt like to be discarded. To be lied to. To have your trust shattered. Poetic, wasn't it? But still, something was missing. Because revenge wasn't complete until I felt free. Until I stopped checking her social media. Until I could hear her name without clenching my fists. Until I could look at a couple holding hands and not wonder which one was lying. So I did one last thing. I drove to the storage unit where I'd put our furniture, our books, our life. I opened box number 3. Inside, candles from our first apartment, concert tickets, a scarf she'd forgotten, and the engagement ring I'd bought 6 months ago. Not a huge diamond. Just a simple band with a sapphire, her birthstone. I'd been waiting for the right moment. Never came. I took the ring. Drove to the Potomac. Stood on the Key Bridge at sunset. Wind in my face. Water below. I held the ring in my palm. Looked at it one last time. Then I threw it. Watched it arc through the air. Saw it vanish into the darkening river. No speech. No tears. Just release. Because I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't loving a ghost. I was alive. And for the first time in months, I breathed like it. I used to think closure was something someone gave you. A confession. An apology. A look in their eyes that said, I see what I did. And I'm sorry. But I've learned the hard way, closure isn't handed over. You have to take it. Sometimes with your teeth. Sometimes from the ashes. And sometimes it doesn't come at all. It's been 2 years since I threw that ring into the Potomac. 2 years since I stood on that bridge, wind biting my face, heart hollow but finally still. I don't hate Emily anymore. Not like I did. Hate takes energy. It lives in your bones, keeps you up at night, makes you check old photos when you should be sleeping. I carried it for months, fed it with every memory, every lie, every imagined moment they spent together without me. But one day, I just stopped. Not because I forgave her. Not because I forgot. But because I started living again. I moved out of the apartment above the laundromat. Found a small house in Tacoma Park, wood floors, a backyard, a porch where I drink coffee and watch the seasons change. I adopted a dog, a mutt named Rusty, half pit bull, half mystery. He doesn't care about betrayal. Just wants belly rubs and steak scraps. I changed jobs too. Left the insurance firm, the place where I'd sat numbly processing other people's losses while mine went unacknowledged. Now I work with a non-profit that helps veterans transition to civilian life. I don't fix souls. But I listen. And sometimes that's enough. Dr. Lang says I've done the real work, not the revenge, not the exposure, not the silence. The grieving. Because I didn't just lose a woman. I lost a future. A version of myself I thought I'd always be, the loyal boyfriend, the steady partner, the man who believed love was enough if you worked hard at it. That guy died the night I read those messages. And I had to bury him before I could become someone new. I saw Emily once after everything. By accident. She was at a farmer's market near DuPont Circle, buying peaches. I was there for honey, Rusty's vet recommended it for his allergies. I saw her before she saw me. She looked different. Not older. Not broken. But smaller. Like the world had pressed down on her shoulders and never let up. Her hair was shorter. No makeup. Wore a loose linen dress, sandals, no jewelry. She held a reusable bag in one hand, phone in the other. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. Or pain. Just sadness. Because I realized she wasn't happy either. Whatever she thought she was running to, it hadn't saved her. Daniel was gone, fired, divorced, vanished to some consulting gig in Dubai, last I heard. Her parents were distant now, strained by the fallout. She'd left D.C. for a bit, tried Portland, came back broke and alone. And here we were. Both standing in the sunlight, surrounded by life, carrying wounds that didn't show. She looked up. Our eyes met. She froze. I nodded just once. Not friendly. Not cold. Just acknowledgement. Like to survivors passing on a battlefield. She opened her mouth, maybe to speak, maybe to apologize. But I turned and walked away. Not to punish her. But to prove something to myself. That I didn't need her words. Didn't need her regret. Didn't need anything from her at all. And that was freedom. People ask me sometimes, do I regret what I did? Sending those files to her parents? Exposing Daniel? Letting the truth burn everything down? And the answer is complicated. Do I regret hurting her? Yes. Not because she didn't deserve consequences, but because I didn't want to become someone who enjoyed another person's suffering. But do I regret protecting myself? No. Because if I hadn't fought back, if I'd just walked away quietly, she would have told herself I was weak. Replaceable. Easy to discard. And worse, I might have started believing it too. So no, I don't regret making her face what she did. But I do regret letting the anger define me for so long. Because revenge doesn't heal. It only balances the scales. And life isn't about balance. It's about moving forward, even when your legs feel broken. Last winter, I met someone. Her name is Claire. She works at a bookstore downtown. Loves old horror novels, hates cilantro, and laughs like it surprises her every time. We've been on 6 dates. No declarations. No promises. But when she touches my hand, I don't flinch. When she talks about her past relationships, I don't wonder if she's lying. And when she kissed me for the first time under a street lamp in the snow, I didn't think of Emily. Not once. That's when I knew. I wasn't fixed. I wasn't over it. But I was open. And after everything, that felt like a miracle. I still think about that party. More than I'd like to admit. Not the betrayal. Not Daniel. But the last moment it felt real. Before the cracks showed. Emily laughing by the fire pit. The smell of wood smoke. Cold beer in my hand. Friends around me. The woman I loved leaning into my shoulder and saying, "I'm so glad we came." In that second, it was all true. Maybe it even was true. Love doesn't vanish because it ends. It existed. It mattered. And the fact that it was poisoned later doesn't erase the good that came before. I used to hate that night. Now, I thank it. Because it taught me who I am. Not the guy who gets cheated on. Not the victim. Not even the avenger. But the one who survived. Who looked into the dark and didn't blink. Who loved deeply, was betrayed completely, and still found a way to stand back up. So this isn't a story about revenge. Not really. It's about what happens after the fall. When the music stops. When the lights come on. When you are left alone in the wreckage, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. And how, somehow, you do. Not the same. Never the same. But stronger in the broken places. If Emily ever reads this, assuming she ever does, I don't have anything left to say. No curses. No pleas. No final plea for the truth. Because I already know it. And so does she. We both made choices. And we both live with them. All I hope, no, all I know, is that I won't spend the rest of my life looking backward. I've got a dog who needs walking. A woman who makes me smile. A life that's finally mine again. And a quiet peace I earned the hard way. So I'll keep going. One step. Then another. And if the past tries to follow, I'll leave it behind. Right where it belongs.